And I think the other thing about your slow drip, when you put it out on the table, if somebody didn't want it, they're not taking it versus it just
Exactly.
being automatically given to them and then they throw it away. And then whatever is left over, you can deal with that however you deal with that. But I think that is such a really good approach. What was the company? I want to say they were out of Colorado with the little pouch. It was a little pouch that was like, oh, I love my little pouch.
The
I
little like
use it
mesh
all the
kind of
time.
one.
Yes,
It's
I snuck
Buena
one for you.
Goods.
Yes.
I have
Oh,
one.
so cute. It's so cute.
I know.
use mine all the time. You know what?
Hey.
You can't go wrong with a little pouch. I just want to be like pro pouch. Like you can't have enough pouches just like you can't have enough bags,
Never.
right? So
Yeah, I agree completely.
Welcome to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we share stories and strategies to turn any event or life moment into something unforgettable.
Events are wild, and the people who work in them are some of the most resilient humans on Earth. If you know, you know.
So come with us behind the curtain for a look at their most memorable experiences.
As they say, the show must go on, so let's get on with the show.
Karianne, do you want to take us through maybe a little breathing exercise or something to clear a chakra or something? I don't know. What should we do?
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I'm sorry, my sound bowls are in the other room, but
oh, I love your sound bowls.
Thank you. All right. Well, okay. Put both your feet on the ground if they're not there. It's important. All right. So feet are flat.
Yep.
Just rest your hands comfortably, maybe in your lap, and perhaps we'll all close our eyes and take a deep breath in and out. I love to make that sound. And another one in and out. That's good. One more like that. And then draw your attention with your eyes closed between your eyebrows, your third eye center. And just feel back behind your eyes. Relax your eyes. And then notice the flow of air in and out of your nostrils. Relax your tongue and jaw. Soften your throat. Awareness in your shoulders. Just releasing any tension. And feeling into the top of your chest and back. Letting go of any holding in your abdominals. And releasing your pelvis and hips. And feeling your arms and hands completely relaxed. Legs and feet soft. And then just place your awareness in your feet. Sensing into your toes, bottoms of your feet. Observing where they touch the surface of the floor beneath you. And then just feel beneath that. Beneath the floor. Just putting your mind in that space. And then just letting that go. Maybe wiggling your fingers and toes a little bit. Maybe rolling your shoulders. Feeling the body breathe. And then opening your eyes. Coming back. Awake and alert. Hello.
Well, hello.
Do you feel grounded?
I feel grounded. I feel refreshed. I have a little bit of an air buzz, I think.
Ooh.
I know, we should do those more often. A bird flew into my window when we were mid-practice. And so I did interrupt for one moment to look, and then I closed my eyes again and got right back underneath the ground. So
Okay, that's good. Hopefully the bird's okay.
I think it's okay. It happens all day long around here. They're always flying into the windows. It's not because they're that clean. It's the reflection of all the trees.
Well, let's introduce our guest today, Libby, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we are so thrilled to have Karianne Michelle with us today. She is a dynamic brand storyteller, well-being expert, and international presenter with over 20 years of leadership experience in the creative industry. That's a long time. That's 2 decades, people. She has collaborated with global companies such as State Farm, GE, Abbott, Hewlett Packard. I can't get that out, as a brand strategist while guiding teams at Google. I do love to Google, Amazon. I shop there all the time. And of course, our favorite, Lululemon, through transformative wellness programming. As a yoga instructor, sound bath artist, you guys, she's so good at sound baths, and meditation guide, Karianne integrates spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being into her work, paving the way for corporate culture that prioritizes holistic wellness alongside business success. With her innovative approach to storytelling and wellness, Karianne is empowering organizations and individuals to unlock their full potential. Welcome, Karianne.
That was like a little ad. I
Brought to you by Lululemon.
We're going to run
Just
that
kidding.
during the
Just
breaks
kidding.
in our other episodes.
I love it.
Da, 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 da.
Well, I'm just feeling so refreshed and grounded for this conversation. And we're going to talk about events. We all love events. We all do events. And I guess, Libby and I often talk about the fact that events, we like them because they have a very clear beginning, middle, and end. Like you know the hero's journey of an event. So we should probably just start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. All right. So how do you, at the beginning of an event, in the planning stage, how do you lock in on a client or audience's vision right from the start? Like, what's your process? I guess it would really be with the client. How do you start the vision process of what you're hoping to achieve at the event?
Just like I do in the marketing world, what does the success look like, right? So what is our measurement of success going to be? And I think a great example of that is when we met at the Reagan Communications Women's Business Summit and Retreat last year in California.
So fancy, so fun.
And that's a great example of when I was talking with the CEO of Reagan, Diane, at the very beginning of curating that new series of events. It was, what do we want success to be? And honestly, although there were a lot of metrics, in terms of you're investing in something new for the business, you want to have a return on it. The key success marker was people making friends. We want these women we're bringing together to feel, this psychological safety so that they can leave with these new contacts and really feel like they've connected. And it can be hard to make friends sometimes in your industry, real friends. And, it's a great example of course, there are a lot of other important business metrics, but starting with that vision of what does the success look like? And sometimes being really clear when it comes to some sort of shared experience or event, what does it actually look like for the audience?
That's really great because, I think that's something people don't always think about with events, like the feeling and the vibe that you want to resonate, afterwards. Like, yes, everybody wants an event to be fun, but, what specifically, like what kind of actions do you want to come from them feeling the things they feel at your event or at your party? I like that.
And it was a really good vibe. It was a really good vibe. I can sometimes, when I walk into a conference, especially one that's all women, as great as that is, it can also honestly be a little intimidating because it's like, imposter syndrome kicks in and you're walking around like comparing your insides to everybody else's outsides and being like, oh, they're so much smarter than I am, more accomplished than I am, prettier than I am, more put together than I am. So I feel like the different activities that you put together at that event, Karianne, really kind of like broke down all those barriers, right from the very start. So I thought it was really, really well done.
We did too.
I also know that you were like the queen of swag curation for that
Yes.
event. And what I loved was what I specifically loved, and I think I even called Libby from the conference, and I really loved your slow drip. You didn't give out the bag with all the swag like all at once. You dripped it out over the 3 days that we were there. And so every time you came back to a new, like the big session where everybody was together, there would be new goodies over on this table that you could go and be like, oh, have you seen this? Oh, have you seen that? And it gave you something to look forward to. Maybe that's a very common way to distribute swag, but I haven't seen it done that way. And I just thought that was really a great way to highlight each of the individual businesses, which I think they were predominantly women owned, to highlight their brands in a special way. Whereas when, you throw everything in a bag, it's cool to get a really full bag, but sometimes then not everything gets a fair share of attention in the bag. So I thought that was really clever. Do you want to talk any more about your swag curation process?
Yeah, thank you. I would say that drip approach is something that I've started to do. I actually more probably since COVID, when, thinking about the in-person experience shifted and there were just more things to consider in terms of everybody feeling healthy and comfortable and safe and in different ways. I think there was just another layer of detail. I hadn't really thought about that till you just said that, but I think it was kind of coming out the other side. But one of the things I liked about how we did that was it kind of kept the surprise and delight going, which is, from part of my time in the PR world, that's like our big go-to slogan when you're doing events, right? What are those surprise and delights? So how do we kind of keep that going across the time? I also know just from my own experience being at, I don't even know, more than I can count, events in my life, whether I planned them or went to conferences or big events, small events, cocktails, mocktails, yogas, running, like all the things I do in my free time, plus all this stuff in the business world, that I ended up with a lot of the swag bags that I always felt really sad about, because I would watch sometimes my colleagues throw them in a trash can. And, they're like, well, it's just full of glossy postcards for brands I don't care about. And the person in me who cares about the environment also would sort of shudder every time that happened. So it's become more important for me to think about swag in different ways. So one, if I have a brand that, let's say, is sponsoring in some shape or form of an event, having a conversation with that team to help them think beyond sort of the basic tchotchke. And, even if their budget is still small, like less than $10 a person, because their money is going towards something larger, how can they make a different type of decision with that, knowing who's attending, and maybe something that is a little out of the box for them, so we don't just have things contributing to the trash. But then also, more importantly, when it comes to the kind of premier different brands or levels that you're having, a way to have that swag is to think of it much more as a partnership, and looking and spending some time curating really interesting smaller businesses that don't always have the opportunity to get in front of maybe the audience that you have. And sometimes it's easier for a small business to give one product to 50 to 100 people than it is for them to pay to be advertising. And so it can be a win-win, especially if you can take the time to make sure it's something that's meaningful. But one of the things you might remember, Elise, that I did is I kind of become the spokesperson for those brands. So I always promised them
you did a great job.
Thank you. I always promised them that, I try to pick things that I have used myself or would use or seem applicable as much as possible to the audience, but then take some of that brand 101 and have a 15-minute call with the founder or the head of their team to get into the details of why this is different and unique, and then to do the little 1 to 2 minute soft shoe on the stage about what everyone is about to experience, just so that we connect the human dots and you can know about the person who created it, why they created it, why we're giving it to you, what maybe I think is fantastic about it, just to make it more interesting. Again, that idea of a shared experience. So that shared experience with that founder, they might not have otherwise found.
That's really cool. And you could do that too. I've never done this for for like a shorter event, for a 4-hour time frame or something. But you could do kind of like a little swag scavenger hunt. I mean, you'd have to make like a passport where people get like marked off so they don't take, 10 water bottles or whatever. But it does add another level of engagement. And I like the little pitch that you do for people. Just a little.
It was really good. And I also I love that you talked about sustainability, because we can't just keep ordering a bunch of plastic stuff with logos on it that goes into landfills. Like, it's not a good look for the brands anymore either, right? And so
No.
it's like, be really thoughtful with your items. Make sure it's something that people want, that it's durable, that it's usable. And I think the other thing about your slow drip, when you put it out on the table, if somebody didn't want it, they're not taking it, versus it just
Exactly.
being automatically given to them and then they throw it away. And then whatever is left over, you can deal with that however you deal with that. But I think that is such a really good approach. What was the company? I want to say they were out of Colorado with the little pouch. It was a little pouch
Yes.
that was like, oh,
I
love
one
my
right
little
here.
pouch.
The
I
little like
use it
mesh
all the
kind of
time.
one?
Yes,
It's
I snuck
Buena
one for you.
Goods.
Yes.
Yes.
I have
Oh,
one.
so cute. It's so cute.
I know.
use mine all the time. You know what? You
Yay.
can't go wrong with a little pouch. I just want to be like pro pouch. Like, you can't have enough pouches, just like you can't have enough bags,
Never.
right? So
Yeah, I agree completely.
I don't know how much of your DNA was in this part of the event, but at the beginning of the event, the first day or the first afternoon, we were all there. We were sitting at tables, and so each table got the Lego flower kit, and it was a competition to see who could get what table could get the bouquet of flowers together first. And so you had teamwork, and then those served as the centerpieces for the entire event. And then at the end of the event, people got to take them home. And I will tell you, when it was announced that you could take those Lego flower bouquets home, the women were launched out of their seats at the first moment that they could and not look too crazy. People went for them. So I thought that was so clever. I love fresh flowers. I do. But I also am a big Lego girl. So I just thought that was such a clever way to do decorations at the event, team building at the event, and people actually want to take it with them, fight over it almost. Nobody fought, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I agree. Thank you. We had the original idea of, we want something on the centerpieces. We don't want to be throwing flowers away. The very first event we did, we got really lucky because it was, the first event. So you were at the second one. The first one we did, we had to be very, 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 very thoughtful about every single dollar. Like a lot of people when you're piloting something. And we were really lucky because the hotel was having an event the night before and they had all these arrangements. And so we asked our pals at the hotel, what are happening to those flowers? And they're like, that's facility is not your concern. We're like, what if they were just sort of there at the elevator? Anyway, I don't know what magic we worked, but we were able to get some. So they were repurposed for our event. So they extended it. But then when we knew we were doing this one, it was like, oh, that was so nice. We're not going to spend that money. We don't want things to go in a landfill, but we want to do something team building. So at first it was is there something with a local florist? And is there something where they're dried arrangements? Right. And that's kind of where we started. And then I think it was the Reagan team that may have ultimately said, what about Lego? And yeah, it was so smart. And it allowed us to have a lot of touch points was sort of one thing. And I will say, Lego, if you're listening, we did try to reach out to see if you would want to supply them and we didn't hear back. So,
and we were actually in very close proximity to Legoland.
We were.
And not to brag, but it is not bragging if it's true. My table took first place. And I think we did have a slight advantage because I actually have that Lego floral kit at home. So I have already assembled it once. So I was quick to become the boss of my table. Nobody's surprised at this. And we really powered through. Now, when we got to the end, there were a few pieces left over that I'm not sure should have
You get extras. They all come with a couple extras.
I was at Elise's table.
Yeah.
There were enough. There were enough.
Oh yeah,
extras.
we hid them. I think we kind of,
we did.
We're competitive.
Yeah.
A competitive group.
Right.
So.
We just made quick decisions. Mistakes at full speed. Just quick decisions.
Okay, well, that could Lego floral arrangements or just anything Lego would definitely go under the category of best swag items. But Karianne, what are the best and the worst swag items you've encountered
Ooh.
in your career?
Dun, dun,
Whoa.
dun.
So much pressure. I mean, it doesn't have to be the ultimate, but
Yeah.
what comes to mind?
All right. Well, first, I will tell you, I think the best, but it wasn't necessarily my experience. It was one of my friends who I'll never forget this. So she's in sales. So first, you have to know that the sales teams, especially at big pharma companies, they pull out
Their
all the
budgets are a little
stops.
different.
Mhm, for their
Yes.
national
Yeah.
sales team. And she was doing really, really well at the time. It's probably like 10 years ago. And it was January, kind of like the annual time. Still, teams do this now. And I remember it was going to be a whole week. And she's like, they were asking me for my shoe size and like all these different things. I was like, wow, that's interesting. I wonder what's going to happen. And they gave her, it was like all the different athletic brands. I mean, she got a pair of like trainers in her size. She got a full like a top and like bottoms and like a t-shirt, and it was like all the high-end brands. And I don't know enough about the back end to know how much of that they just outright bought, or how much of it. But she said that it was done really well where when they got there and they checked into their hotel room, it was all like nicely put on the end of their beds. And it was, she said, I could tell somebody had like very thoughtfully like folded and organized it. And like it had a nice little branded note from the company and, about we want you basically to feel comfortable being your authentic self. We're going to have this great week of team building. They had some well-being things built in throughout that they could choose to do. So it was also like, you can wear this, but it wasn't. And the thing I remember about it is it was not all branded by their company, which is the thing that most companies will do. So, I mean, yes, I think she did have like a pullover or something that was like a North Face brand that had a little logo, but everything else was not branded. And I remember we talked about how much she appreciated that because she felt like they actually wanted to give her that swag. And it wasn't just like, oh yeah, and we'll put our logo in on it all, because you don't always want to wear your company's logo. So that's probably the best, because I'm into, well-being and fitness, and like we were running buddies at the time. So I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. You got new shoes and you got new socks and you got a new outfit. And like, that's expensive, and it's nice. And she said too that like, their team was all different shapes and sizes. So she's like, I mean, they really, whoever like in that team curated it was very thoughtful. I think they even in that filled out like their favorite colors. I mean, it was a very detailed thing. And I remember her saying like, I don't know what this is going to be. And then when she told me, so that was the best. That's like over the top, very customized, very thoughtful. And for people who are like leading the sales of the company. So I think that spend probably really motivated them. Certainly it did for her. I think the worst swag, honestly, is the repeatable tchotchke crap that I see at trade show booths of every single industry, where it's like, this is a terrible pen. It doesn't work. I can't hardly read your logo. I don't know why I'm getting it. I'm going to throw it away. And right up there with like a card that's oversized in like really terrible colors and graphics. And like, I have a stack of 25 of them in this thing, and I'm not using them to look your logo up. I'm not using it to scan a QR code. I don't remember your brand. It was not one of those 8 impression touch points to help me. I wish you would have used your money some other way. So
yeah.
The rest
I know
of it's
pretty
so
much
bad.
anything paper is just like,
yeah, I don't remember it. The rest of it, is so bad.
Well, we are in the digital age, so people
yeah,
are
I guess we are.
less paper for sure.
I guess it's a new
Libby,
era.
do you remember when we did the opening for Athleta was opening their first store in the Pacific Northwest, and we got to wear matching outfits?
We did. It was really kind. They gave us each a pair of leggings and a top to wear. It was really very generous. But the pants looked like we were all wearing diapers. It was something about the way the padding was and they weren't made for bicycling. They weren't like cycling pants. There was just something about
Oops.
these leggings that we all looked like we had depends
A little
on,
extra.
which
Do you
is
think-
a little extra. Little extra.
no judgment, but you don't want to look like you don't want to bring attention to the fact that you might be wearing a diaper. And I think we wore them for that opening, and I don't
did.
know if we ever wore them again. So it was a very well-intentioned, swag for us. I mean,
or
branding.
was
but
it
also,
like a
like-
discontinued item that they're trying to
Yeah,
get rid
I
of?
think
something
that
they're maybe
might be
never
more-
going to
I
sell.
I did like the top though. I kept the top for a while.
The
I
top was
clearly-
great.
Yeah,
I
the
agree.
top was great. The top was great.
It was a nice purple
Nice purple
workout top.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was great. But the pants, so that's the other thing. I mean, sometimes it could be a well-intentioned item, but the quality, it's like you can have a really cool gift you give somebody. Like you can make a really cool design on a t-shirt or whatever, a really cool graphic tee. But if it's one of those thick, like scratchy, cheap materials, like no one's gonna wear it. So like they're still gonna give it away, or like you could have a coupon on your card stock that you put in the bag, but if I have to physically bring it in, am I ever really going to do that? I think I still have coupons in like a box somewhere.
When I've personally had times for my little small business that I've had an opportunity and it's like, yep, you can have a card, and it's like, great. What I try to do is think out of the box. So one of the things I've done before is done like a 4x6 postcard, had a designer friend of mine, pay them a little bit of money, not a ton, but like a little quick hour or two project for them to design something on the front that maybe is a little more branded, but using some fun colors in my palette. And on the other side, have I've done like meaningful quotes or kind of empowerment statements, because I've done a lot of events for women. So that makes sense, but that like I would want to see, and then work to, instead of having those go in the bag, be in a place that the attendees are going to run into them or pick them up at a moment, but with the idea that hopefully if the people were like me, maybe some would keep it and they would be like, oh, I really like this. I'm going to put it on my desk, or I'm going to hang it up in some place, and maybe they'll get rid of it. But that's something I try to do to keep things a little bit unique.
This was a card my friend gave me, but it says, I've grown weary of listening to the nonsense.
Yeah.
And my son is always asking me, what is that? What is that card? I'm like, if you only knew that this card is for you, it's meant for you. But yeah, I have a bunch of different cards. I mean, most of them are like greeting card type things, I guess. But like, I did have a business I bought this artwork from, and she sent me, my husband went to WSU. And so I bought him this, these drawings of the Palouse and kind of Coug buildings, but she sent me this tiny, I don't know if you can see it with the light, but it's just this tiny little, I don't know, 1.5 by 3 card or 2 by 3 card or something. And it's just a little tiny print of it, but I love it so much. I keep it up here.
Well, I love it when you can, again, like you heard me say design, but like artists are just so creative. And I feel like there's a lot of ways that you can use independent artists and help support them. And your like little tiny budget can be very meaningful for them sometimes in like a week of their life or a month of their little business. And it can allow you to like help somebody else get their art out and to stand out. And a lot of times people are better at expressing what we're trying to do. It's why in branding and marketing, it's good to have a team of different perspectives, because you got visual thinkers and you got number thinkers and you got word thinkers,
Well, and I know I've made mistakes. We've made mistakes at swag bag items. Now, this was a long time ago, so I do think at the time, I don't think this would happen today, but then Libby, you'll remember this. It was very early on at Celebrity Stakeout, which was an annual fundraiser we did.
I know what you're going to say.
Early cancer
cringe
detection.
every time.
And we had $25 gift cards for a tanning salon in the bags. And we didn't really think about we didn't really think about it.
Also, I will say at the time, there wasn't as big of an emphasis on, it was just right on the cusp of tanning beds and, you know, sun expo like
for
really
an early
highlighting
cancer.
sun
Yeah,
exposure
yeah,
and your
I
lip
had a
yeah.
and
moment there.
risk of cancer.
Yeah.
Whoa,
See,
Yeah.
Karianne, we were on the
right.
same page. And then we were like, but the speaker's wife had actually, I think skin cancer is what she had died of. And so it was just really,
Oh God.
it was pretty
Oh, yeah.
mortifying for
It
us
was awful.
to,
It was
You
terrible.
guys win.
it was
were
a learning
swag.
moment.
You
It was
were you win
terrible.
were swag.
It
Okay?
was terrible.
Yeah, it was bad.
That's a good learning moment.
But honestly,
we all
it
have
didn't
stuff. Yeah.
it didn't occur to us. Again, it was at the time like tanning
Yeah.
was looked at in a different way. I used to be a tanner, and this was before I also ended up having skin cancer myself. We really thought we were giving a value in, you know,
Yeah.
$25 gift card feels like a value, and you did have
Yeah.
the option to use that towards a spray tan. So like we really
Okay.
we did think it was a good thing. And then when it was pointed out, that blind spot was pointed out, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, I still,
Mm.
it's been like 15 years and I cringe. I cringe when I think about that one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess the reality is when you're in marketing and events, I mean, you get so many of these under your belt, there's going to be mistakes. I mean, you just can't avoid it.
Oh,
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It happens to everybody. It's for every big win, you've got something in the, you don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
So
If
what
you
do
don't
you
like
not want to
making
talk about
mistakes-
anymore?
Yeah.
Can you tell
Oh,
us?
yeah. Oh, done. Good transition.
Oh.
I want you to tell us about that event that you did in Chicago. That's a really good story because
Okay.
I still think about that story and I still am like, oh, she's a genius.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, now we can see a overflow with cup from that. Basically, starting my business, I'm going to do my first event. It's going to be this like epic workshop. And I'm not only going to do one, I'm going to do two, because why would you offer one day when you can offer 2 days? Not the same people, 2 days, you know, so like one on a Thursday,
Yeah.
one on a Saturday, right? We'll capitalize. Because I think this way sometimes. I jump all the way to the big idea. And I had these women that I had found that I thought, well, they could supplement other perspectives. We can have like this little panel talking about branding. They can teach some of the little workshops. I don't have to do it all myself. This is going to be great. And then I didn't sell tickets. And so I was like, uh-oh. And graciously, I always want to say we love Liz, my friend Liz, because she bought a ticket for me. And like, forever, even though we don't really talk anymore, she's in my heart for that because it meant a great deal. And I ended up deciding, okay, well, we're going to obviously cancel one of these events because I got Liz signed up for Thursday and I got no one for Saturday. So that's what that is. And we're like a week out and I'm like, so, all right, how am I going to pivot? Right. And this is our entrepreneurial like marketing mindset. So I had to do a few things. One, I was like, great, we'll use it for content. We'll get content. Okay, great. That means I'm going to have to pay somebody to come capture the content. So, okay, we're going to spend more on this event. All right, it's fine. Let's make the most I can. Okay. I'm going to need to give away seats. I need to get people there, but I want them just to be anybody. So I reached out to people in my network. This was an event for small business owners, entrepreneurs who needed branding. And so I kind of picked a selection of people, very diverse, because I also knew I was going to be getting content and I wanted to represent the audience that I wanted to be buying from me. And so to me, that was very diverse. So I was very intentional, asking different gender spectrum and all different types of business owners and etc. And then I had to call the women that I was paying, by the way, for their travel and paying them to be there because I think big, you know, the first time I'm doing it coming out of corporate America thinking, here we go. And I basically said, like, look, here's the deal. You're not going to be teaching and doing this both days because we're not going to be doing it on Saturday because no one's coming. But I'd still like you to come. And I'm still going to pay you. And what I've decided is for the second day, we're going to go to a co-working space, which was like the one thing that was totally free because I had a membership. I pulled strings or something. And we're going to work on my company. And so you guys are here. You have other amazing perspectives. And I'm still growing my little brand. Clearly, there's some things I wasn't doing the right way to get butts in seats. And second of all, there's other questions that I would benefit from having some other people who've been in business longer than me do. And so that's what we did. And so I ended up getting some really good content out of it. I felt great about the experience that we gave to people. Genuinely, people loved it. I had a great session with them. It was an amazing experience. It was not anyway helping my bottom line. I got 2 people out of that did turn into clients. So that did, like, in the end of the year, kind of recuperate the costs back. So that was a kind of a surprise. I mean, I was so frantic that honestly I couldn't go into it thinking like, oh, well, this would be great. They'll come for free and then I'll upsell them. Like, no, there was none of that. There was like, how do I
just
even
need a
pull this
breathing,
off?
warm, smart body in
Just
this
someone with
room.
a pulse. Anyone with a
Yes.
pulse.
Yes. So yeah, that had a wide range of emotions in it, and to show up and to do it and to capture content and be like smiling and happy and confident when, like, I knew 5 or 6 days before that, I was like, what are we even doing?
Yeah.
So
It's just
Yeah.
such a smart move. It's so smart. And also, I want to say, like, really at a moment where you just feel like down and like really humbled and just like, oh, shoot, like I've had people not buy tickets to some of our events, many events, and I've been scrambling to like fill seats and I'm like embarrassed. I'm like, what did I don't want to tell people that I didn't sell these because I'm like, don't want them to think I'm a loser. This is not directed at you, Karianne. This is totally my own perception of myself. But I'm like, I don't want to tell people that. Like, I don't want them to think that I'm like lame. But I just think it is so like really brave and just such a really good way to connect with people using that kind of like genuine, like just being vulnerable, and sharing the truth about what's happening.
Well,
I think really is like it's totally endearing to people. And they're like, yeah, of course I want to still come and brainstorm with you for a full day. Like, absolutely, I'm in.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think part of it for me is that I've had a career of pivoting, right? Because in the marketing PR space, especially in PR, but in the marketing world, you can have a great roadmap and a plan that you set up for anything you're doing, from a campaign to an event or whatever. And things change, real time, current events change. I mean, I've been used to pivoting, so that definitely helped me. I also think that I was surrounded that time, I still am, as I've become more into the entrepreneurial mindset, with other people who, when you are working for yourself, you just kind of have to be you, because there's not really time for people who aren't going to collaborate. Like, yes, you're competitive, sure, but you're going to only get as far as you can in business, like within your network and growing beyond your network, right? So I was lucky that I felt supported too.
So, as we start to wrap up this very lovely conversation, I know we could talk for at least 3 more hours, but we're not going to. We're all about winning the game of events. So, the question I have for you is, what have you learned that is your best event skill that's so valuable you would teach it for free to others, just because it brings you joy and it would bring them joy? It's something that is like a best practice in that you do, besides pivoting, obviously, because that is a superpower.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Wow. I love it when you guys give me these like major extremes. It's like,
we're really about like the
what's the
far
worst?
ends
What's
of the
the best?
spectrum.
We're
the
so
best
intense.
and the worst.
Events people are intense. I don't know if you guys have picked up on an overarching
yeah,
theme here.
a little bit.
We've got a flair for drama.
Is it time for us to put our feet on the ground again? And
Yes,
settle
I have an
into our
answer for
breath?
you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, I think for me, the thing to know is that I studied music. I'm a classically trained vocalist, opera singer, and I have been performing since I was about 8 years old, right? And I went to school and did this, and then I had a side hustle in Chicago for 15 years singing at something. I always like to give this number. It gives you some context: over 1,500 weddings. So, like,
Wow.
that's a real thing.
Wow.
So when it comes to thinking about an event and the experience, yes, there's like the presentation and like how is that coming across, but there's also the like production of it. And there's all the intangibles that become so important, right? Like we were talking about that earlier. I don't remember now what we were saying about it, but for me, it's thinking about things like the music that's playing and how does that music change within what we're doing. So like when I did that event with you, Elise, right, we had playlists that I had curated partly from some of the attendees, but then I added on to, but there was one for like the morning, there was one for between sessions, there was one for like evening time, there was one for like the wellness activities. So like, you know, really thinking about that mood and the vibe, thinking through the lighting if we can, thinking through the temperature if we can, thinking about the surprise and the delights that are going to happen, you know, thinking about the flow of the day and the energy that's moving up and down. And, you know, also really thinking through the audience and how are you going to keep them engaged? You know, how are you going to make sure your show is a success? So I do think for me, yes, I have the actual practical marketing life and have done that for really, really big brands. And I've also done it for myself on a really small scale and been successful. But there's always going to be that, like, what is the experience from a successful kind of presentation, sort of, you know, theater-esque type. So yes, the drama, but not the actual drama. The actual, like, how do we not
vibe.
have the drama?
The
You know, the vibe.
Yeah.
The absence of drama.
Yeah. And you're going to get the grounded part too. You can't not have that with me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm curious, is there something that you learned as a, well, because as you said, and as we said too, you're a classically trained vocal artist, very skilled, lots of experience. Is there anything you learned from that part of your life that has influenced or affected the way that you do something in the event world?
I think the biggest thing from a specific in terms of singing and voice is breath. And that's probably more for if you're going to be on a panel, if you're going to give a keynote, if you're going to introduce somebody, if you're going to be standing with the mic in front of people, right? Even as a participant, if you're moderating, all those different roles, is the power of your breathing to calm you, to ground you, to help you project your voice, to have that confidence, and to take a breath and to pause and to create intrigue, right? So like the breath does so much because not only does it support you with that presentation, it can also sort of do the opposite if you've thought about it well and sort of just be the thing that keeps people like, what's next? So that, I guess that comes to mind.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
You guys, I kind of want to go throw a party now.
Yeah, I
Take
know.
some deep breaths, and I kind of want to go throw a party now.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's figure that out. Well, Karianne, where can our listeners find you?
Oh, I love that. Karianne Michelle is available on LinkedIn, on Instagram, my website, Karianne Michelle. You can learn more about the well-being practices. And you can also learn a little bit more specifically about kind of the well-being for corporate on getlofty.com. So Lofty is my business brand.
Love. Well, we are so grateful that you joined us today. And I don't think this is the end of our conversations. I think more will be had in the future.
I would love that.
Yep, I think so.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode. I think we'll be hearing more from Karianne in the future. If you are winning the game of events, we would love to hear from you and hear all about those stories. You can find out how to contact us in the show notes. And until next time, keep the party going.
Thanks for listening to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we explore what it takes to make moments unforgettable.
If you're leaving with a little more inspiration, a little more perspective, and a big side ache from all of the laughing at our funny jokes, then we've done our job.
Beats Working is a Work P2P production. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platforms.
Your support helps us keep the magic going.